which is important for people to connect to their own city so that you can preserve what is there. Otherwise, your city will be dead. You'll end up destroying a lot of historically. Like I'm talking about, there are several countries in the world where they save things that are 70 years old, 80 years old, 90 years old. It's very funny because we have things here that are 500,000 years old and which people don't care about. It's just fascinating that India, in spite of all of the rampant destruction of historical structures, we still have so much left.
Welcome to Conversations with Heritagewale. This is Smita Babar. We believe that the word Heritagewale represents us all. The aim of these conversations is to explore multiple dimensions of this vast term called heritage and to understand why and how some of us Heritagewale have been engaged with it in the most remarkable ways. Today, we have Yunus Lasania with us, who writes extensively about Hyderabad's history and archives the lesser-known aspects of it in a comprehensible language on his Instagram handle, The Hyderabad History Project. His love for Hyderabad and its history can be witnessed live on the heritage walks he hosts in and around Hyderabad. A journalist with over 10 years of experience, a well-known oral historian, writer, a popular heritage walk leader, and a name now synonymous with Hyderabad, Yunus Lasania. Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. Yunus, a very warm welcome to you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me for this particular episode.
So, Yunus, we have to start with Hyderabad. Tell us about your earliest memories of Hyderabad.
Actually, my earliest memory from what I remember of Hyderabad would actually be would be my school in the monsoons. So during monsoons, Hyderabad gets very windy. It's like monstrously windy sometimes. बहुत जोर से हवा चलता सब जगह. I don't know how it is in Delhi, or I'm assuming it's similar in other cities also, but it gets pretty windy. So the city really changes during the monsoon. I'm talking about about 20 years ago when there was less pollution, more rocks. It got very, and it gets very cold also. So it's a very nice time in the sense if you like cold weather. It becomes like a bit of like a hill station sometimes. That's one thing. And the other thing that I remember from my childhood is, so in very coincidentally, I happened to live very close to the oldest church in the city. So I used to pass by it every day, like for 12 years of my school. So every single day I used to pass by it. So I never knew it was the oldest until 7 years ago, but I remember that church very well from my childhood. The St. John's Church, that would be it.
So, what is your most favorite place in Hyderabad? I'm sure it is tricky, but still we would love to know.
So today, my most favorite place would be, I think, the Qutub Shahi tombs in terms of heritage value and, in terms of in terms of something very beautiful. Like the Qutub Shahi tombs today, like this, I think it's like Sundar Nasri, but with a lot more structures. Okay, it's a massive 103-acre site and it's beautiful. They have thousands of trees and plants there, and there are like several monuments. There is a hammam. There are big tombs and things like that. So Qutub Shahi tombs, I think, is also one of the best places to start learning about Hyderabad history. So it is one of my most favorite. But I think the only other place in terms of attachment, I would say, would be my college, the Arts College of Osmania University, which is a very interesting building because it was designed by a Belgian architect. I think Jasper, his name was, yes, in the 1930s. So the Arts College building is also, so for me, like in terms of, so I studied there. That's why it's one of my favorite places. But otherwise, I would say in terms of strictly heritage value and what we can learn, I think the Qutub Shahi tombs is definitely, first for me at least.
Okay, that's great. And how was your childhood like? And what aspects of your childhood do you think might have nudged you into becoming what you are today?
See, I think my childhood was pretty much like almost any other Hyderabadi. So, okay, by the way, for full disclosure, I live in Secunderabad. Secunderabad and Hyderabad historically were two different cities. So we have a very different. So Secunderabad is more like, I would say, like Bombay. It was a former British cantonment. So it is distinctly different from Hyderabad in terms of culture. Hyderabad has like a more Nawabi culture, as I'm sure you remember from the last time when you were here, right? So for I pretty much grew up like any other kid. In fact, I think more than anything else, I would say that a lot of us in Hyderabad or Secunderabad or the entire city basically end up growing not learning anything about the city. I think that's one very distinctly unfortunate thing that has happened. Unless, of course, your families are in family or somebody in your family uh, has something to tell you or talk about. That's when you have children who become aware of heritage and things like that. But otherwise, it took me a long time to understand the city itself. I was not really somebody who I liked history as a student. I remember that very well, but not in the sense that I don't think we went on a lot of field trips or anywhere like that. Or I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I would have gone to Golkonda Fort maybe and seen the Charminar also, but I don't actually remember being awestruck by anything until it took me a long time to until somebody sat me down and until I started reading is when I started finally realizing, okay, these things are very, very important. But yeah, so childhood was pretty much like anybody else's. Nothing, unfortunately, nothing. Not the kind of childhood where I can say, I had this moment where suddenly I realized, कि मेरे को, I knew all this, but yeah, so that's how it was.
Okay, so I'm curious about knowing how this love for history developed for you, and how was that process, and also how did you switch from journalism to becoming a historian that you are today?
So I was working for the Hindu. I started working for the New Indian Express, and I think I didn't write about anything history at that point of time. When I was working for the Hindu after that, between 2013 and 2017, 2015 ending May, my my ex boss from there, Serish, who's also a friend now. Serish kind of was already doing, he was writing about history from much longer. Serish Nanisetti, who's an author also, has written a book on Golkonda history. Serish kind of pushed me to write about heritage. In fact, see, 2015, I believe. Uh, I remember how I got into it was when I saw that Intac had released a list of heritage awards for a bunch of monuments. So I thought, okay, I'll go check out all of these monuments. See, the thing is, I told Sirish that we could have carried out, I could have just written the press note, whatever the sent saying these buildings, XXX building received the following awards or citations or whatever. Then I thought, maybe I should just take a little bit. I should probably visit those places and see what is actually there. So that's when I also stumbled upon the St. John's Church, which I realized that is the same church I've been seeing my whole life. And there's a Wesley Garrison Church, and I basically wrote about like a small series of articles on all the monuments. So वहाँ से it started. Then I realized, then that's when I started getting into history and heritage. वहाँ से it started, and then I began pursuing things that side, all the while doing my regular work also. So वो करते करते, so after a point I realized that there's not much that you see in journalism. Sometimes your articles really hit like a sixer. Sometimes it makes a difference. Sometimes it doesn't make a difference. So I thought, it's instead of having something that will work. See, if I write an article today, 10 दिन के बाद people will forget. Or sometimes, of course, people remember now it's everything's on it. But I thought, if I should probably make some kind of a. My original idea was to write a blog, but I realized blog is now a little bit piche. People were at that point, at least like 6, 7 years ago. People were at least people who are into arts and culture and history were more on Instagram. It's more visual now. So that's when I realized that whatever I'm working on, I should probably just put up at least a part of it online on Instagram so that people have like a place to go if they want to know about Hyderabad history. And that's how the Hyderabad history project started. And I just started writing like whatever regularly I was covering. I just started putting up those things there, whatever I thought was interesting. The only difference was that I thought, unlike in journalism where you have deadlines, you're supposed to write something jaldi jaldi and give. Sometimes it's difficult for people to verify, and so I wouldn't blame reporters. It's not something that they're also taught, like okay, purana koi, you have to open a history book, check, like you have to really sit and read for to actually understand. So a lot of reporters rely on people, on historians from cities and from activists to get dates and stuff and things like that. So I thought, there's no point of me relying on somebody else. I just thought I should probably do my own work instead. So that is where I started getting into it. I basically started reading old books. That's how it literally started like that. I thought, what is the oldest book I can find on Hyderabad? And then I realized that there are actually not too many books, although that is one major issue in Hyderabad. So if you want to read about Hyderabad, you'll have to really search, and it should not be that difficult. So but I think now it's much better, of course. And that's how it started, and then that's how the Instagram page started, and then uh, I think from 2016 mid or from the beginning of 2016, I wrote like continuously for history for about a long time. 2017 May, when the Hindu had its Sunday edition out for the first time, usme they asked everybody if they have ideas. So then that's when I pitched one more idea. So usme I wrote an article in February 2017 about the last Nizam's 50th death anniversary. So that article actually went very viral, and that is when I realized that people really are interested in reading at least about. I'm not saying about the Nizam himself, but I think that I realized there is some curiosity still among people who want to learn. And even me, somebody who grew up, learning nothing about Hyderabad. So I had a former, my mentor and my first boss basically was very nostalgic about Hyderabad. He would always talk about how when in his 20s he used to go here and there, and he would tell me. Even he also happened to be from the same university from Osmania, so he would tell me during unke time pe in the 80s how the campus used to be and things like that. And I guess he kind of like 10 years ago, he kind of infused a little bit of his nostalgia into me. It was still, it didn't come out like the way it should have until I went to the Hindu, but वहां से शुरू हुआ, and then finally 2017 में that Hindu का जो article लिखा, that is when that article really flew, in the sense that random people who I knew from the US were messaging me saying, "Hey, nice article," and then my aunt from the US sent me a message. Well, somebody from some college or from campus sent me an article about it. So sent me an email saying, "Good article." I didn't write it for that, but I realized that okay, chalo, theek hai. I guess that's when I realized that okay, something has to be done because clearly nobody else is doing it. Like in the sense that, uh, see, I think in 2017 also, see, unlike Delhi, I guess Bombay, Delhi, and other bigger cities have like a heritage scene going on. That Hyderabad is still very, very new in the sense that uh, I guess we never really ventured that way for a long time until now. So I think वहाँ से शुरू हुआ 2017 May also I left the Hindu, but because I left the Hindu and I still wanted to write about history and heritage, I joined Mint after that. So while working for Mint was mainly business and political reporting. But while working there, I told myself, "Jo bhi ho jaye, I will make sure that I continue writing about the city on my own." So that is when I really focused on the page on the side. Whenever I would have time, when I would be out for reporting, I'd take like a small detour, go finish my office ka kaam, and then I would go do other things on the side. And I had a little bit. So Mint was a business paper now. So Sunday ideally would not be much work because it's closed. Markets are closed on Sundays. So I had the weekend more or less. Not as if in journalism we don't have weekends generally, especially if you're a junior. Very rarely you have Sundays and Saturdays off. So Express Hindu I never actually had. I've pretty much never had weekends off until like what 6, 7 years back. So then Mint when I joined, even for Mint, I wrote a bit of historical. I mean, I wrote a couple of stories on Hyderabad history, but the chances in Mint were much lesser. That's why I focused a little bit more on Instagram, and that is when in 2017 March also, just before I joined Mint in 2017 April. So 2-3 months pehle I did my first walk, which was very ironically not a history walk but a food walk in March 2017. So that started from there also. It started very slowly. I was not doing a lot of walks in 2017. More of, I guess, 1 or 2 walks a month. Now I do 2 walks a week.
Your journey was, it started from your curiosity and the nostalgia. And so this was happening, but then storytelling or conducting heritage walks is
completely different than just reading and studying and writing about history.
Right.
So
Right.
how
Right.
was this transition, and what do you enjoy the most about it?
So what happens is basically I did not think of myself. I never actually. I still don't think of myself as a storyteller because I never really wanted to do that. I was more particularly interested in educating people in the sense that it's just like how it was mind blowing to me. Okay, okay, this is what Hyderabad has, and I was like, if people also learn about this, it will probably help them. So my aim was pretty much just to simply help people learn about the city. In a way, maybe get a little bit nostalgic like me also. So see, a lot of people also in Hyderabad already are attached to a lot of things. It's just that they don't know the historical value of whatever they know. So it's like when they come to the walks, they be like, oh, मेरा घर यहाँ पर 40 साल था, but I never knew that this is like this. For example, you went to Grand Hotel, right? So most of the people who like, I think every walk in Abbott's about 30% of people who are there, they're like, oh, I've been coming to Grand from so many years, but I never knew that Grand is this old. Or they'll be like, oh, I've been having food from here, but I never knew that Grand is an Iranian cafe and things like that. So see, the thing is, I am always going to be a writer like that is what I enjoy doing. Like writing is my strength. Okay, like I can't. It's like what flying is to a bird, something like that. So that aside, while I was conducting these walks, I think unsubconsciously I started realizing that you have to get better at talking so that you can connect to people. So it's like what I realized was that instead of telling people facts, also it doesn't make sense. You have to like really build a narrative. Like that's why for example, when I talk about Hyderabad's foundations, I don't just talk about saying the founding king of the Golkonda Empire in Hyderabad was an Iranian. Like that doesn't make any sense to people. You have to explain why an Iranian came to India, or why migration existed in medieval India, or why migration existed in India, or how Indians also migrated to other places. So all these things in terms of cultural context is very, very important. So are very important. So I think maybe 2017 May started, right? So 17, 18, I think I was pretty much like I made sure that my facts are tight and that I never had anything factually incorrect. If there were a couple of instances where maybe I would have got something wrong, and you have to accept sometimes when you are wrong also, and you have to make sure that you don't repeat those mistakes again. But for most parts, I think I basically managed to keep myself actually correct. And वहाँ से slowly as I realized that, so when you start talking, people generally have similar questions in terms of if let's say if you're missing a link, then they will ask you ये क्या है वो क्या है. So that's when I realized that there's no point of me just starting from like this or like that. So I give as much context as I can, and I think that by default allowed me to kind of get into, well, I guess like you could say storytelling, even though I would still not say I am a storyteller, because I don't I've seen storytellers and I don't think I'm in their league at all. I'm still a writer first by profession. That's pretty much what I think I will be also.
That's very modest of you, because I'm one of the lucky people who has gotten to experience one of your, multiple of your walks. I would say it was a whole day which we spent
Yeah.
together, and it was such a wonderful experience to get to know the city with you.
I mean, see,
So
that's the thing, right? So, see, that is half the point. Like see, for example, a couple of years ago, I actually listed some of my walks on Airbnb. So before COVID, when they were, I think for about 4 months, I had a continuous stream of foreigners who were coming in, and see, that's what, right? So once this has happened multiple times, somebody will come and ask for, like, let's say they want to do something similar to what you did. They'll be like, मेरे को इस सुबह ये time से ये time में ये करना है. I'm like, fine, ठीक है, that's what they book. So after that, then they start getting more curious, and they're like, do you have more time? Can you come around with us for like a lot longer? So that's pretty much how it works. So it's exactly like that's what I think also makes somebody. That's what I would say. Anybody who is into this kind of thing should aim for, to make sure that people want to learn more and more. And once, see, I remember there was a guy from Tamil Nadu, I think, and I think he's a doctor who came to Hyderabad for like some conference or कुछ काम से आया था. I'm not sure. And he had 1-2 days in between, so here that's why he signed up for a walk from Airbnb only. And he was so happy that he stayed for one extra day, and he spent like one full day going around the whole city. And he was like, "Don't worry about the money," and he just made. She just like, I think सुबह 6:30-7 बजे शुरू करे, और nearly for 8-9 hours we were together until lunch. And that's how it used to be for a lot. That's how that's how sometimes it still is. But now I think I'm getting a little old and tired easily, so I'm also limiting how much time I go around in the mornings and afternoons.
So I want to ask you, what is your most favorite thing about conducting heritage walks?
About conducting heritage walks,
Yes.
it's about basically helping people learn about the city. I think that's literally it. Because see, the thing is that one of the main reasons why I conduct the walks is so that people, have an understanding of how the city was built, but more importantly, also so that they have a sense of belonging, like the kind that I have. It doesn't have to be like saying something glorify. You don't have to glorify your city saying it's the greatest city in the world. It may not be, but it could be like the small things that you like about your city, which makes you connected to the city. Like for example, for me, it's just Irani cafes. Pretty sure for a lot of people also it might be that. So I think that's pretty much one of the most important things that I conduct, that I think should also help people. And also I genuinely like helping people learn about the city. It is nice when they people people are there are people who have gone to Golkonda for multiple times, but when they come with me, they look at it in a completely different way. So it helps them also understand what the city is, what the fort is, and it gives them a very completely different picture. See, like it's very different from just going and seeing a place, from understanding it. So I think seeing people learn, and and helping others learn also is something that is the biggest takeaway for me.
So, you are very good with people, right? Because you have
I'm not sure.
because you've connected with a lot of people who who can tell you about the past. And
Hmm.
so how did that happen? That was natural to you, or you had to cultivate the skill to get information from people?
So I think being a journalist, and I think I can fairly say that I'm a fairly decent, good reporter. So being a reporter, there are two ways of doing this, where um, the conventional way is, it is very, but for me, as far as I'm concerned, I was not very conventional in the sense that I had to, basically, I had to make my contacts. I had to meet people. I had to talk to people. I am generally a very social person also. I like talking to people, and well, persistence is sometimes also key in that. But yeah, I don't think, as far as my work on heritage history as is concerned, it didn't. It also helps that I'm a journalist, by the way. So if I tell people I'm a journalist, it's a little more easier to get access to things also. So it kind of worked out very well in my case. I don't. Uh, it is very easy for me to strike up a conversation with any random person also that I think I want to talk to. Where, what's the worst thing that can happen? They'll say, "No, I don't want to talk. It's not going to do us any harm." So, but that's it. But that's about it. Also, generally speaking, a lot of people like talking, especially about things that they are into, or about. Let's say I'm going to talk to somebody who is who collects antiques, right? So that such a person would want to talk about what they do. Somebody who makes. And in fact, I saw your post on those tiles from Karaikudi. So I'm pretty sure they also understand the importance of their work. And I'm sure if when you talk to them, I'm pretty sure they are also pretty open to explaining what they do, right? So I think when people also know that you are genuinely coming from a place where you want to also learn about their profession or what they do, it helps. It's not very difficult. Of course, if you have, I mean, if you are an introvert and it's difficult for somebody like that, it might take a little bit more effort. But in my case, I guess my reporting job kind of helped.
It's such a good skill to have, actually,
Yeah,
to
I
be able
agree
to
completely.
connect with people. So, Yunus, what are your other interests, the side of you which we don't know?
Uh, well, the one side of me that people don't know about is, well, also, apart before I got into history and stuff, I used to collect coins for a very, very long time. In fact, I had so many coins from, I don't know where, kahan se collect kiya tha, I don't even remember. I think I pretty much lost most of it. I think now I have only half of what I used to have. But otherwise, apart from that, I would say I am probably a very boring person in the sense that the only other thing that people don't know about me is that I actually own three motorcycles because I really like motorcycles. I used to go here and they'll pass me out for for long way, but now even that also I don't have much time for. This is now pretty much my history thing is pretty much a like I think 75% of my life now. So so that the other thing actually I'm a little bit fascinated with tech in the sense mostly with smartphones. So I keep updating phones regularly. I've also used a lot of used phones just to see how that also works. I've done a lot of things with smartphones. That's like one small nerdy side of me with regard to tech. But yeah, but that's I think the only other thing. Yeah, was that's it.
Good to know about all this also. So
Hmm.
now going back to your history side again,
Hmm.
what do you think? How can people connect with their own cities, and why is it important according to you? And how can people do that in today's day and age?
See, the only thing I would say which is important for people to connect to their own city so that you can preserve what is there. Otherwise, your city will be dead. You'll end up destroying a lot of historically. Like I'm talking about, there are several countries in the world where they save things that are 70 years old, 80 years old, 90 years old. It's very funny because we have things here that are 500, 1,000 years old and which people don't care about. It's just fascinating that India, in spite of all of the rampant destruction of historical structures, we still have so much left, right? So the only reason why anyone should have a sense of belonging is so that they can preserve their own cities the way these cities are meant to be preserved. Because otherwise, you will end up having nothing. You will end up having a new, dead, soulless city which will have no character. See, cities are also not like no matter what you do. For example, so after independence, 56 is when Andhra and Telangana were both merged to create Andhra Pradesh, and Hyderabad was the capital, right? 2014, Telangana was say bifurcated from Andhra Pradesh, and Andhra, which was supposed to have Hyderabad as joint capital, the Naidu decided to go have his own capital in Amravati near Vijayawada, Guntur. No, Jagan doesn't want that. So it's like become like it's like literally they have no capital. See, I'm not saying having one big centralized capital is a very, very important thing. Having small decentralized cities is also probably a very good idea. But then, capital cities have historically been centers of not just wealth, but also of intellectual क्या बोलते हैं, uh, you have knowledge basically. You have a whole culture that develops by different people coming and living there. I think Bombay is a very good example of that. Hyderabad is a very good example of it. Bombay, people who built Bombay are all people who came from different places, right? So if you look at Bombay's history, the way Bombay was built over like what 400, 500 years, it took them a while to come to where it is today. Like there's a reason why it developed as the financial capital of India. Now that that's pretty much it. You need to have a sense of belonging to the city. Now, Bombay, something like Bombay, I see a lot of people there having that kind of nostalgia. People like people wanting to preserve. Hyderabad, I think, did not have it for a long time. I mean, no, of course, I'm sorry. There were people who genuinely cared, who did whatever they could, but I think it shouldn't be left to a bunch of activists and heritage lovers. Everybody should be a heritage lover. This city belongs to everybody, right? For anybody who lives here. Cities belong to people who live who live in those cities. So it should if you learn to value your own heritage, you will end up valuing, like, let's say, if you value wherever your hometown is, then you will automatically value any other city that you go live in also. Like, you will by default understand why it is important. I think that is the reason, that is pretty much the only reason, to have a sense of belonging and to understand the historical value of these places. And well, I guess tourism is the offshoot of it. These places can also be self-sufficient if enough infrastructure is available in terms of to kind of push it for tourism. So I think that's one very important thing. That's why if you look at cities also, what happens is that some place like Hyderabad, so that's why apart from the big places, other places are all neglected because only the touristy important places are like maintained. So again, a very wrong approach. You can turn even the smallest of places into any important place tourist wise. I think that I think now maybe there is some kind of thought that is going towards that. So I think I think Delhi is a little better in that sense. I think I'm not sure. Some people in Delhi say that kuch bhi nahi hai, Delhi is bad or good or whatever. But I think in Delhi there is still some kind of I think there's a little bit of more awareness. Like the activity is a little higher. Like I think the government organizations are also a little bit more proactive there. Hyderabad, not so much. I wish the organizations that protect all of these structures are also not necessarily always which have, like for example the ASI. I believe the ASI should have the authority to directly stop something that should be stopped instead of them calling up the municipality or the police and saying, hey, wahan par kuch ho raha hai, please stop that. It's a lot of unnecessary uh, jhamela for anyone. Like, that is what kind of impedes a lot of. That's why when something is breaking, nothing can be done because once it's gone, it's gone. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. Like, I think this is where my journalism experience kicks in, where as somebody who was writing about the administration and about what is happening, you kind of can pinpoint the problem, saying that there is an issue. This needs to be addressed like this. I think government departments also need to evolve a little bit to kind of suit what we need today. Like, we need to have a department for archaeology and also for heritages, for both. You can't just mix both. I think architecture, like architects are again different and archaeologists are different, right? Both have different purposes, like in terms of what work is to be done. So I think all these things need to be addressed. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure you and I both know what is happening, but I think to a certain extent, at least some things have been preserved. So, but yeah, but pretty much this is one of the major things that I've also noticed for people. This is why, and also people come to my work, a lot of them go back with some kind of appreciation that they have for the city. Like, they're like, oh yeah, there's a little bit of pride involved. You become like, oh, this is what my city also has, something like that. A lot of, and it doesn't have to be some great monument. It can be an ordinary building. It can be the most ordinary hotel, or it can be anything. So it's up to us to kind of give value to whatever exists.
This brings us to an end. And thank you so much, Yunuss, for being so candid with us and showing us all aspects of your life and your love for history.
Thank you for having me.
And you are doing such an important work, and really congratulations for that. And we really admire that. And also, your journey is also very unique. So I'm sure it will inspire more and more people.
Yeah, but thank you. Actually, but I've actually always thought I should have also become an architect, because it would really help me understand so many things instead of actually having to learn from scratch. But it's fine. I'm just saying that's why I also appreciate a lot of my architect friends, including you, because I know that there's so much of technical stuff that even I won't be able to fully understand, which I think you will probably know much better than me. So that is why also I believe architects are probably the key to kind of saving all of these structures historically in terms of our heritage. So yeah, because most of the things, if you look at whatever work is happening, you have architects working on all these projects. So I think, yeah, I think I'm hoping more and more architects and more historians get into saving their own cities at least.
Yeah, so true. But also
Yeah.
the work which you're doing is inspiring common people to,
True.
appreciate what we have. So even that is a great thing. All right, then. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Yunus, for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Okay. Bye.
Bye.